Hey guys, and welcome to this introduction to Google SketchUp, talking about the tools that we're going to be using when using this program. So Google SketchUp is a 3D modeling computer program for drawing applications such as architectural, interior design, landscape architecture, civil and mechanical engineering, film, and video game design. It is a free web-based application, and so what we're going to be talking about today specifically is SketchUp for Schools, which is made for primary through secondary schools, all the way from elementary school up to college students. And so we can access SketchUp for Schools through our web browser, through the G Suite for Education. And so your school has to be connected through G Suite. And the way that we can do that is as you open up a new tab, you can go over here to the Google Apps. And as you scroll down, you should be able to find SketchUp for Schools. So we can go ahead and click on that. And this is going to open up SketchUp. Okay, so I already have one open over here. And so I'm not going to wait for that to open. And so this is what it's going to show when you first open it up. And so right here, this is what some of your designs that you already have had if you've been in here before. Right here on the menu right here, this is the home menu. We also have our Google Drive, and then there's some curriculum that you can also get for some tutorials. And so we're going to start here with the Google Drive because everything that we do in SketchUp, we want to save to our Google Drive. So you're going to click on the Google Drive. You're going to select your drive. And then when that drive selects, we're going to be creating a folder. So every time that we save something as we're drawing, it's going to be saving directly to that folder. So when you open up Google Drive, you're going to see right here where it says add a folder. We're going to create a folder name. We're going to name it SketchUp Designs, and then we're going to hit create. And that's going to create a folder. So every time that we save something, it will go into that folder, SketchUp Designs. So let's go back over here to Home. And so you see where it says Create New. Well, the drop down is going to tell you the different types of measurements that you want. And so for ours, what we're going to be doing is architectural feet and inches. But for some of you, you might want to do decimals, you might want to do millimeters, you might want to do meters. So for our projects that we're going to be doing in architectural feet and inches. So go ahead and select that. When you select that, it is going to open up a brand new design field for you. And so right here, over on this left side, we have some menu options. And over on the right side, we have some additional options. And so as we go through this, I'm going to start talking about some of our different menu options that we have available. And so we're going to start here. This right here her name is Catherine, and she gives us a scale of what our designs are going to look like, right? So as we build, we can also see the scale. And then we have some planes here. We have blue axis, the green axis, and the red axis, so you can see the directions. And so let's go ahead and start with the menu options. So right here we have a search where if we didn't know where a tool was or we were looking for a certain tool, we can type in that tool. Right here we have select. So if we click on something that's built already, we can select it. Okay. Now we can also erase it. So as we select something, we can erase it. Now say you erased something and you did not want to, we can go back up here and we can hit undo. Okay, so go ahead and practice that for a second. The next option here we have is the paint bucket and the sample materials. So when we click on this, it's going to open up our materials selections over here. And you can see we have some different colors. And we can also pick a color and paint, right? And so as we start building some of our designs, we can pick colors and we can paint those colors, right? The next selection is going to be our pencil selection. And so right here we have a line or we have a freehand. So if we select the line and we start here from our origin, we can draw lines the directions that we want. Okay? And so it's just going to continuously draw. And so what you can do is you can see as we move over, it's going to snap on certain axes. So if we wanted it to be parallel with the blue axis, we can move it till it snaps, and then we can draw it. If we want it to be parallel with the red axis, same thing. If we want it to come back over here and to be even with our bottom axis right here, we can bring this and then we can See where it says blue axis? And now we should be able to start filling in some squares. If we draw this one last line right here, boom, now we have a square. Now, one of these options down here at the bottom is going to be our orbit tool. And so if you're using a mouse, you can click that center button on your mouse, the wheel, and you can rotate around. Okay, the other way that you can do it is you can click on the orbit tool, select it, and then when you click on the left mouse button, that is now selected. Our next set of tools is our arcs. So we have, as we open up this set of menus right here, you have the regular arc, you have a 2-point arc, you have a 3-point arc, and then you have the pie tool. Okay, and so as you select on the arc, if we come down here, you can see that we're on the blue axis right now. We can click our arrow keys on our keyboard, and we can change the axis that we're on. And so if you hit the up arrow key, you're going to stay on the blue axis. If you hit the right arrow key, you're going to change to the red axis. If you click the left arrow key, you're going to click onto the green axis. And so we're going to stay on the blue axis. We're going to go over here. We're going to select that arc, and then we're going to select it. And you can see that it's going to draw some lines for us, right? And so we're going to stay on our red axis, and we're going to arc it until we have that perfect arc on the ground. Now we're going to go back over to our line tool, and we're going to connect those two lines. Okay? And so that's how you can draw some different shapes. Now, one of the tools that's on here is called the push-pull tool, and you can see it right here. It pushes and pulls up. If we select on that push-pull tool, you're going to see that there's 3 different tools that come up. One is the push-pull, one is a follow-me tool, which we'll get into on a later video, and the other is an offset tool. So we're going to start with this push-pull tool. So that arc we just drew on the ground, we're going to highlight over it, and you can see how it changes color. Now, as we click on it with our left mouse button, we're going to pull that up. Okay? Now, down here on the bottom right-hand side where it says distance, I don't know if you see this or not, but you can see distance. That's the height that your arc is going, or that your design is going. And so if you want to select a certain height, so say we wanted to make this 5 feet, you can see how I just did the foot symbol. You type that in, and then when you click enter, it's going to stay at 5 feet. Okay, so we have our push-pull tool. You can verify those heights with your measurement tool. You can see on the tape measure. So there's lots of different tools here. We're going to start with this tape measure tool. And so if we go over here to the bottom, click on it, bring it up, click on it, you can see that now we are at 5 feet. Okay, and you also can measure the bottom. So 10 feet, 11 inches. Okay, so back over here to our push-pull tool, right? So I talked about this offset tool. So let's go ahead and click on that offset tool. And when you go over here to our shape, we can click on the center of the shape, and then we can offset our corners, right? So if you wanted to have a design where you wanted to push-pull the center out, you could do that. And so we could do that. We could push our center or pull it out, right, if you wanted to make something. And so now you can see that we've hollowed out our center. Okay, so if you did something that you didn't like, again, you can go back over here to undo, and no issues, right? And so far we have 2 different shapes, right? We have our shape that we drew with our line tool, and we have the shape that we drew with our arc tool, our push-pull tool, and our offset tool. Okay, so one set of tools that we have not talked about yet, which is our rectangles. Okay, so when we open up this menu right here, you're going to see that there's a rectangle, there's a rotated rectangle that has an arc in it, there's a circle, there's a polygon tool, and then there's a text tool. Okay, and so let's start with the rectangle tool. So let's go over here, and we're going to do a new shape on the ground. Okay, so we want to be on our blue axis, which is the ground, and we're going to draw a square. Now, when we let go of this, we're going to put in our dimensions. So we're going to make this a 5 foot, 5 foot, comma, 5 foot square. So it's a 5 by 5 square. Hit enter. Okay. So now you have a 5 foot by 5 foot square. Now we're going to go back to our push-pull tool and we're going to pull that up 5 feet. So we're going to pull it up with our push-pull, and then when we let go of our mouse, we're not going to touch anything else. We're going to go to our keyboard and we're going to type in 5 feet. Enter. Okay, so now you have a perfect 5 foot by 5 foot square. So you can see the 3 shapes that we have so far. Okay. So next shape is going to be, we're going to use our circle tool. Okay, so we're going to come over here, scroll out with our scroll wheel. Okay, we're going to click our orbit tool from our center of our scroll wheel mouse, and then we're going to draw a circle on the ground. Okay. Now we can come over here, we can come back over here to our push-pull tool, and we can pull that up. And that's going to give us a sphere. And so we're going to do that. We're going to bring it up, and then we're going to type in 5 feet again. Now we have a 5 foot sphere on the ground. Next tool we're going to try out is going to be our polygon tool. Okay, so again, you can come over here, you can come over to here to orbit, or we also have our pan tool. Okay, so if we come down here to the menu and we hit pan, we can move left and right by clicking the left mouse button, or we can also have it selected as pan, and then we use our mouse wheel, click on the mouse wheel, it selects the orbit, and we can turn. Okay, so practice that a little bit. Go ahead and turn. I want to see the front of these shapes. We're going to use our pan tool to move over. Okay, and so we're going to move this over a little bit. Okay, and then our next shape that we're drawing is going to be our polygon tool. And so you can see as we're drawing, or as we're moving around, you can see that now we're on the green axis. We don't want to be on the green axis. We want to get back on the blue. So we're going to rotate back around until we're back on the blue. You see how that works? So if we rotate up and we have it, we're on our green axis. If we rotate down and we're looking at the ground, we're going to see a blue axis. Okay. Now, when you do the polygon tool, you can bring it out, and it's going to go off of the radius. Okay, so we're going to go with a 2.5 foot radius. So 2 feet, comma 6 inches. Okay, so now we got a 2 foot 6 inch radius. Okay, and now we're going to go back to that push pull tool, and we're going to pull it up 5 feet. All right, so now we have a 6-sided polygon. Okay, or a hexagon. So now we have a hexagon, we have a sphere, we have our sphere, we have our square, right? And then we have our arc that we drew with our offset. Okay, so the next tool that's on here is going to be the text tool. So I want to label the top of that first design. So I'm going to go back over here, I'm going to hit my pan. I'm going to bring this back over. This is going to be our board right here, okay? So this board right here. So we're going to come back over here to our text tool, right, which is in this menu right here. Go ahead and hit text. And we're going to name this capital shapes, right? Capital shapes. We're going to keep the height at 1 foot, okay? We're going to keep it at regular. We'll use the font. You can select any font you want. Let's check permanent marker for fun, okay? 6-inch extrusion, and we're going to hit OK. Now it's here, and so now what we're going to do is, you can see as we move this around, it's going to change direction based on what shape you're going to put it on, right? So if we put it up here, right, it's going to go. It can change to where it's on the blue axis, or the red axis, or even the green axis. So we're going to put it up here on top of our board here. And we're going to be on edge red axis, okay? And so now as we scroll around, it should be there on the side of the board, okay? So shapes as our title, okay? So now to unselect that, all you got to do is hit your select tool and then undo it, right? So now we have our shapes. We have some different shapes that we've drawn, okay? Okay, so the next menu option on here is called outer shell. And so we're not going to go into outer shell this video. It's a little bit more of a complex tool, so we're not going to hit that one on this video right here. The next important pieces of our menu options are move, rotate, and scale. Okay, and so the move tool is probably one of the most important ones. And so let's go ahead and we're going to triple click onto this shape right here to totally select it. And when we select our move tool, then we can actually move the shapes. Okay. Now, one little trick when you're moving shapes is you can see that there's corners, there's endpoints. And so say you wanted to put two shapes together, like say we wanted to select this square and we wanted to match up one edge of the square with the edge of our polygon. So we're going to go over here to our move tool. We'll rotate around and we'll bring this over. Okay. Now say, like I said, so say we wanted to move that edge onto this edge connected with this edge. So we're going to select this edge right here. And as we move it over, it's going to snap into place. So that's one way that you can move pieces together. Now, one thing that you do need to make sure that you do before you start moving shapes and putting them and connecting them, so I'm going to undo that, is that you need to make them into a component or a group, okay? Otherwise, if we try to move it back, so let's go back forward. Now that we've moved these together, right? Now when I try to select, it's going to select everything. It's not just going to select that one shape. Let's go ahead and look at how to make components, okay? So let's go back. Keep it apart. Okay, we're going to unselect it. Okay, now we're going to make this one a component first. We're going to right click on it. We're going to make it a component. Okay, we can just leave it as component one. And now what's going to happen is when I move this shape back over here, now I can move, when I go back to double click on this shape, it's only going to select that one shape because this is now a component. So that's one thing that you want to make sure is if you're doing an assembly project, that you keep your pieces as components or groups, okay? Okay, so we only have a couple tools left here and then we'll be done. So rotate tool, okay? So when you click on the rotate tool, you can see that there's axes. And so if you want to rotate it in a direction, you click on it once, rotate the protractor to the direction that you want, and then you can rotate the tool back around. Okay, same thing as if we wanted to rotate it onto a different axis. So say we wanted to rotate it on our green axis, we'd click it once, rotate it once, click on it again, and then we can rotate it up or down. Okay, so say we were trying to put pieces together, assemble pieces together, we can do it like that. Okay. Again, if you want to, whatever you want to change the axis to, you're using your keyboard. So you have your protractor. Up arrow is the blue, left arrow is green, and then the right arrow is going to be your red. So if you wanted to rotate it this direction, we would do it once, click on it, and then we can rotate it up and around. Okay. Okay, so we have our rotate tool, and the last one is going to be the scale tool. Okay, and so say we wanted to make this piece bigger. When we click on scale, we can click on a corner and then we can make it bigger or smaller. Okay, so 3 tools, pretty useful. Our next set of tools are going to be our tape measure tool, right? We showed that one off already, how to measure different shapes. The next one is dimension tool. Okay, the dimensions is going to give us our dimensions. So if we use our dimension tool, let's select on it, dimension tool, and we want to get the dimensions from here to here. It's going to show us our measurements, and then we can move it up to show our dimensions off, right? So if we were doing some type of architectural drawing or even a prototype, and we wanted to show the dimensions of our project, that is what we could do. So let's put our dimensions for this arc shape right here. So go ahead and do that for yours. So go ahead and select the dimension, and I want you to show off that dimension right there. Okay. Our next tool is going to be our text tool. So say we want to label what each part was, we can select on our text tool. We can select onto usually like the midpoint, bring it up, and then we can type in what the text is, right? So this is going to be a So a sphere, right? I want to select off of it. Select on here. So when you first do it, it's going to give you measurements, but you can change it to whatever you want. Let's do this one as a hexagon. Okay. So go ahead and label each one of your pieces. Okay. Okay. Next tool that we have is section plane. We're not going to really talk too much about that. The protractor, we've talked about the protractor already, right? So that's where you can find the protractor. And then you also have your axes, right? And so if you wanted to show off an axis, you could have the axis on there, right? And you can show off which direction you want to point the axis at, right? And so the standard is blue, green, red, but you can also change it around. Okay, so you see how that just changed everything? And so you can change it if you want to. Okay, we're going to keep ours as the standard axes. Our next set of selections is going to be a walk around tool. So if we click the walk around tool and we click on it and we start, you can walk yourself into buildings. Okay, so say you made a hollow building, you can use the walk around tool to go inside the building. So say we hollowed this out. Let's hollow this out real quick, just for fun. And so we wanted to use the walk around tool. As you click, it's going to walk you into that building. Right? So if you were doing like some type of architecture and you wanted to see what the inside would look like, you can do the wallpaper, you can put light fixtures. So that's a useful tool. You also have camera position. So if we click on the camera position, we can move our camera positions to whatever camera position we want. And the last one is going to be the look around tool. So if we just use this and we click on the left or right, this is how we can look around. Okay. So you also have the scroll wheel. The scroll wheel allows you to scroll around, right? Scroll in, scroll out, okay? And you also have these ones, right? So this is the zoom. It does the same thing, allows you to scroll in, okay? And then you can zoom out, or you can also use the pan tool, right? And then the orbit tool allows you to rotate. Okay. Now the shortcut for the orbit tool is the scroll button, right? So you're going to have, if you hit the scroll button, if you hit your scroll wheel button down and just rotate around, you can rotate in and out. Okay. So what I want you guys to do is I'm going to have you finish labeling this one shape over here. So we're going to come back over and we're going to use our text tool again. We're going to label this one last shape. We're going to name this as square. And so now you have your three different shapes: square, hexagon, sphere. You have your board that you've made at the beginning with shapes, and you have your axis that you made at the beginning as well with the offset. Okay, so these are the shapes that you're going to have for this first example. Try those shapes out if you can, and get a little bit of practice in. And the last thing we have to do when we finish a project is we need to save it. Okay, so we're going to come up here and we're going to save this. Again, we go to our drive. We're going to be selecting that folder that we selected earlier. We're going to put a name. So we're going to name this as shapes. We're going to hit save here. And now it's going to be saved into your drive. Okay. You guys have a great day. Talk to you later.